All right. Good afternoon and happy Sunday, everyone. Nick Marro, DFS here with DFS Jayhawk to help you break down today's NBA main slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. This slate does lock an hour earlier than usual, which is why we are live an hour earlier than usual. But yeah, big slate, lots of news. Slate season NBA kind of is what it is at this point. But yeah, Jayhawk, any first thoughts of what we're dealing with here tonight?
Not too much, man. Definitely an interesting late season slate. I think we were just talking pre-stream. Obviously, Tatum's out for Boston, and there's a kind of a bunch of injuries still up in there as well. So excited to break this down per usual.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm just gonna exit studio mode here, going full producer. First comment of the day from OG and regular viewer Jose Morales. How's it going, Jose? Good afternoon, gentlemen. Glad you're here. List of teams we're staying away from. I think we're gonna kind of have to do that throughout. I don't know that it's just like obvious, but I will say this: with so much injury news, we are gonna kind of go through team by team. I know typically we go position by position. But with so many moving parts right now, I think this is probably the way to go. And yeah, if you're using the model today, make sure you have DK main or FanDuel main selected. There's a couple early games going on right now. And one about to start between Miami and the Pacers, but those aren't on the slate. So actually, to answer your question, I mean, this first game here, we got Chicago and Orlando. Chicago, it's the same guys who've been out all year, except I guess Kobe White is questionable today. Orlando has nobody on the injury report. So yeah, if there were a game maybe that I'm not really rushing to get to, I guess it's this one. Really, no injury situations to talk through. Obviously, if Kobe White's out, you could get to a little bit more AO and maybe Caruso. But oh, what do you know? Caruso's questionable as well. So yeah, I mean, there's really nothing here I'm eager to get to. I mean, if both those guys are out, then AO does become pretty appealing. But I don't know, man. Against Orlando, even so, I think we're probably going to end up with better value on the slate. Is there anything from Chicago or Orlando you're interested in right now, or is this one we're maybe not so focused on today? I guess.
Yeah, man. Pretty much on the same page with you. Same page with you. Both these teams, I feel like played a little bit slower of a pace, particularly Orlando. So, yeah, they seem pretty much fully healthy besides Caruso. So, yeah, I'm probably not necessarily going to cross them off completely, but like Jose mentioned, like probably won't have too many players from either of these teams in general.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And yeah, Jose here with another good question. Celtics don't need to win today. Does that mean we don't need to play them? I mean, the thing is, their backups are still going to have to play minutes. There's still 48 minutes in that basketball game. So, yeah, I'd probably leave the starters out. We'll get to them in a minute here. But yeah, I mean, it is certainly nuanced. I do have the NBA standings pulled up on another screen here just so we could kind of talk through this. But they've clinched the conference. They're the number one seed. They're 14 games up on everyone. I think we've seen in years past sometimes teams take their foot off the gas too early, and it kind of hurts them at times. But yeah, for the Celtics, I think this is a situation where they're going to kind of slowly weed guys out or sit guys, but at the same time, I mean, there's still 48 minutes in a basketball game. The players active, they're probably going to play decent minutes. But yeah, who do I have next? I'd love to have just gone right to the Celtics game, but I think we're going to have to go to New Orleans first. We did just get news that Jose Alvarado's back today. Zion had been listed as questionable. He is in. Still no Brandon Ingram. Cody Zeller's available. Not that that matters too much. But yeah, pretty interesting here. So obviously Zion looks okay. This game does matter for both these teams. Both Phoenix and the Pels are playing for seeding. CJ's had some good games with Ingram out, but his price has come up. Can kind of say the same for guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Joe Val finally had a good game the other night. That was with Zion out as well, though. And I think they were playing. Who was it? It was someone huge. Was it the Bucks? I know they needed the size in the front court, so I don't know. I'm not expecting much from him here, especially with Zion back. But where are you at on New Orleans? Maybe a little bit healthier than we expected coming in, but this game does matter. And a lot of the games on this slate can't talk today. Do not matter. So I don't know. I don't mind getting to some Pels. Tough to call anything a priority though. But where are you at on these guys?
Yeah, so I was kind of just focusing towards the top two guys here for New Orleans, kind of like the field was. Both CJ and Zion, I think both look like really good tournament plays. I'm pretty sure these two teams just played like I don't know a couple of games ago. Um, New Orleans got pretty much smash at their home here in New Orleans. So I think both these guys up top, CJ and Zion, are both great tourney plays. I wouldn't say either one's a priority here, but I think they're both definitely really solid spend ups here.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And yeah, I mean, when we're talking about these pay ups, I think it does benefit to kind of focus on some of these games that matter. Suns are 6 point favorites at home here. Again, this one does matter. 222 point total. Pretty favorable game environment. I'll just go over Phoenix quickly, then we'll move on. But yeah, so for Phoenix, they're healthy. I think you could get to the big three. Guys like Booker, Durant, Beal all look okay. Tough to call any of them priorities though, because they're priced where they should be. I mean, you could throw Nurk, maybe Allen to that bucket as well, but Phoenix is fine, but they're healthy, so there's really no value to glean from them necessarily. But moving right along, I want to keep this going. I know you're on double duty today. You're going to be in Discord right after, so we got a pretty interesting game here between OKC and the Hornets. Jalen Williams is back, which obviously matters. Still no SGA though, so there is some extra usage to go around. We've seen some big games out of Giddy. The minutes have been a little bit inconsistent for him. Could say the same about Chet Holmgren. Probably loses a little bit of usage with Williams back. When he's on the floor, he looks great. Minutes a little bit inconsistent with him. Dort, the model always seems to love him. We always have trouble getting there because he's defensive minded. But Isaiah Joe, a value piece, who's actually been pretty good lately. Not as popular as guys like Kenrich Williams. So I don't know. I don't mind Joe is a tournament play. I'm thinking he slides back into the starting lineup here once again. But where you at on OKC? Because it is a great matchup with Charlotte and with SGA out. I mean, there's tons of usage even with Jalen Williams returning.
Yeah, man. So OKC, I think looks pretty good here as a whole. Man, great matchup here for OKC. Starting up top, seems like Josh Giddey's been a guy that's been very up and down this season, just in general. If he's playing the minutes and trying to score, I think he's a great play here at 7,400. The thing is like he's just not been consistent, even with SGA out, shockingly. So I think he's fine at 30%. I'll probably be around the field. I don't love him as a play. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I actually was looking more towards the value guys here, guys like Kendrick Williams, Ludort, Isaiah Joe. I think these guys are probably a little bit safer in terms of point per dollar, in my opinion. So I was kind of looking towards those guys. But how about you?
Yeah, I actually misspoke when I said Jalen Williams was back. I know he's healthy, but they did rule him out again today, probably just because they can against Charlotte. So in saying that, I actually don't mind the Williams play. I was a little bit shocked looking at that initially, but I thought Jalen Williams, Jelen, was going to be in. So we do probably see Kenrich Williams start here. I guess if I'm projecting the starting lineup, it's going to be Giddy, Joe, Dort, Kenrich, and then Chet. So all those guys in a really good matchup. Obviously, I'm never too bullish on Dort just because I don't know. He doesn't take a ton of shots. He has been hitting value at this price, so I don't think it's crazy. But all the starters look fine to me. And if you want to maybe mix in Wiggins or Wallace off the bench and you're playing 150 lineups, I'm not tonight on this crazy slate. But I will say I don't mind getting to those guys. But yeah, man, I do think this is a spot we want to look at. On the other side, we have Charlotte here. And I think we're seeing a decent amount of ownership going to Bridges. They're relatively healthy though. They did get Bertan or Williams is back with Richards likely starting at center. They have Trey Mann and Mitchich in that backcourt. I don't know. I like Bridges. I'm just a little bit confused why he's so popular at this ownership. I know he has the upside, but not the best matchup for him if we're being honest. And yeah, I don't mind him as a GPP play, but to see him pushing 20% on FanDuel, it's making me kind of question if I want to get there, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, how are you feeling about Charlotte today? I know we like OKC, but is there anything running it back that you're pretty bullish on? Or
Yeah, so I was kind of hoping Nick Richards would be out because really want to play Grant Williams at low ownership, but I think with Richards back here, you mentioned Bridges. Like I don't really get it either, man. Like I know he's sub 8K, pretty good price, but this is a pretty stiff matchup here against OKC. Not really nothing to play here, nothing to play here for Charlotte. So I don't really see Bridges going out there and really trying his hardest, I guess. So I don't
Mhm.
know, man. I'm not really too fond of Charlotte here. I get the Bridges low, but I'll probably look elsewhere around his price point.
Yeah, and I did just want to mention Richards is active, so that's going to hurt Williams' upside. But they did announce that they're going to still start Grant Williams. So if you want to play him at power forward, I think it makes some sense. You can still go there. We have a bunch of good value centers on this slate. We'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Bridges is overowned. Don't mind getting to Grant now that we know he's the starter, but proceed with some caution, knowing Nick Richards is indeed back in the lineup. Let's see here. So moving right along, that's a pretty big one. Okay, now we're on the Celtics. We
Yep.
got Boston here taking on Portland. We'll go through the Celtics here first. So Jalen Brown is available. No name is Keita, Peterson, Davidson. They're all G Leaguers. More importantly, though, Jason Tatum is out today. So I did refresh the model right before we hopped on, so I don't think the ownership is caught up, but we could kind of see where these guys are going to rate. Jalen Brown looks good here. Porzingis has had some big games lately. White and Holiday are both active, and then, yeah, I'm never really getting to Horford with Porzingis in, but he probably sees a little bit of extra run, and then we have Pritchard, Hauser. Um, Both kind of boomer bust. I don't mind either. Obviously, with one of the guards out, you feel better about Pritchard. There is a chance we see Hauser slide in the starting lineup here, but it is an awesome matchup, and I don't think that can be overstated. Obviously, Boston's a massive favorite here, but yeah, are you getting to any of these guys against Portland at home as a massive favorite, even with Tatum off the floor?
Yeah, so I feel like this is a really key talking point on the slate, just
Mhm.
because I think on paper this would be a smash Boston spot with no Tatum. It's just like, how many minutes do we really project these Boston guys for? Late season, they've already clinched their spot for the playoffs. So I think all the studs here, Brown, White, Porzingis, all fine in tournaments. I just have a really tough time, picking one particular that I want to go in on with, how big of a favorite they are and I guess how much they really want to play. So I don't know, man. I think I'd pick Brown between the three, but it's really difficult to pick one and highlight them up top.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I mean, for me, it's either Brown or Porzingis. I think you're fine getting the either, but again, it's tough to call them a priority. Who's to say they don't get pulled early if they pull ahead, or even if the game's kind of close, they could just see shorter rotations than usual. To the point at the start of the show, they've clinched first place. So there's really nowhere for them to go, up or down. But on the other side, we do have Portland. They've been pretty interesting lately. We've been getting some big games out of Delano Banton, regardless of whether or not he starts. Likely to come off the bench again here today. One guy who's been tremendous lately is DeAndre Ayton. With the other value at center today, we see his ownership going back down a bit, but let me pull up the injury report here. Still no Robert Williams, obviously. Tyler Simons, Grant is doubtful. Sharp is out. Kamara is out. Brogdon's out. It's still a short rotation, so obviously terrible matchup here. But is there anything for Portland you're interested in? I mean, I'm probably paying down at center for the most part today. But I will say, I think Aiton's one guy probably worth considering. He was over 50%, I think, against the Wizards. Obviously, a much better matchup, but he hit value and then some in that spot. So I don't know. If he's going to stay around 10% owned, I could see myself getting over the field. But what's your take on Portland here in a bad matchup against Boston?
Yeah, man. So like call with Aiden earlier, I think kind of a tough spot here against Boston, but the upside's still really high with him. Obviously, coming off a huge game against Washington, I think he's still fine in tournaments. Like you mentioned, I prefer other center options, point per dollar, but I think he's solid for sure. And then I do like Banton a lot in tournaments, coming in at 4%. He does have a pretty good ceiling when he does get minutes. So yeah, I like Banton, like Aiden in tournaments, and then I don't hate taking a stab at Jabari Walker here, but once again, he's kind of like Aiden in a tough matchup for what they like to do, rebounds, putbacks. So fine with him in tournaments, but not like a priority by any means.
Yeah, and I will bring this up. Banton was cut by the Celtics, so maybe there is some vengeance in his heart here in this spot. If there was ever a place to show up, maybe it's against Boston. But yeah, obviously terrible matchup. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be dicey. We're getting a lot of comments here from the fellas on this game. So be on max exposure to Boston and Charlotte guys. I mean, those are two very different situations. So when you have a team that's getting ready for the playoffs, they're incentivized to kind of rest their better players. For a team like Charlotte that's very young, like they still want to get guys like Brandon Miller run. Like they want to see what they have. So I don't know. I think it's very different. I'd be limited on Boston, maybe one or two of those big studs they have. And then if you want to play Pritchard, kind of hoping he runs the fourth quarter, something like that, I don't think it's crazy. But just keep in mind the teams that are out and the teams that have clinched, it's very different situations we're talking about. Alejandro saying Pritchard should be in there. I mean, I kind of agree. I don't mind him. We do have a lot of good value on this slate that we're projecting really well. But if you're playing several lineups, I think Pritchard's someone who we've seen benefit consistently, regardless of who's out. As long as someone's out, it does seem like he's one of the guys getting those extra minutes. He says Jabari Walker been on fire too. We just talked about him. I don't mind that. And yeah, you brought up Walker. I think that's a good call. OS here is Yurt 7 a lock? I'll say no because there is another center I like a lot tonight in this next game here. I'm going to use this as a very smooth segue. We have scrolling. We got the Wizards at Toronto. So once again, it sounds like no Marvin Bagley and no Rashawn Holmes for Washington, which means we are getting to Vukovic, if that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. I need to refresh the data here, but only 4,400 on DK, 4,200 on FanDuel in a good matchup. This guy's been awesome. I've been playing him a bunch. He was super low owned the other night when Trey Jameson was chalk, and I think they both got there. But whenever he's starting at center, I mean, he's been tremendous. Definitely the guy. It's not Anthony Gill, and still no Kyle Kuzma or Tyus Jones there. So there's a lot of extra usage for this team. I'll use this as an opportunity to refresh the data. But yeah, where are you at on Washington here, man? I really like Vukcevic, however you pronounce it, and I'm kind of shocked he hasn't been drawing as much ownership as maybe a guy like Yurt Seven. I do like Yurt Seven as well, but yeah, man. I mean, this kid's been awesome. And we are seeing ownership going to him. 23 on DK, 34 on FanDuel. I think that's about right. But where are you at on Washington? I think Denny and Poole are really solid as well. Poole, one of the chalkiest plays on the slate, which is always scary, but he has been really good lately.
Yeah, man. I think Washington, two guys in particular you mentioned, I think are really good plays here. Starting out with Poole up top, 7,500. I typically don't love playing Poole as chalk, but Toronto, I'm not really scared of in terms of matchup base. So really like Poole's upside here at 7,500. Probably will be one of my higher exposed mid tier plays here. And then I love that Vukovic call there. 4,400. Even when he was 4K, like you mentioned last night, I thought he was a good tournament play. And I think he's a great play here once again. I think there's multiple options, and I think Vukovic is a great center option today. So love that call there. And then one more name, Anthony Gill. You mentioned was chalk a couple sets ago. I never usually play Gill. I don't know. I guess he's a decent producer, but I'll prefer Vukovic when he's starting. So that's kind of my take there with the big set.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think both of them start actually. Like they probably put Gill at the three now and Denny at the four, or vice versa, and then we're getting Kispert at the two next to Poole. I will say Kispert's someone you could kind of mix in, but the price now is just tough for me to get to. 6K on DK, 57 on FanDuel. Can't say I'm excited about that, but yeah, Denny, we didn't talk too much about. I like him. Jordan Poole looks tremendous. Obviously, he's super chalky though, so keep that in mind. And then Vukcevic at center. We'll talk about Yurt Seven in a bit, but really do like some of Washington. Then on the other side, we have kind of a different situation with Toronto. They're actually getting healthier than they've been. We have RJ Barrett back in the lineup now. He's someone I like here. But yeah, pulling up their ownership, still no Scotty Barnes, Boucher. Bruce Brown is back and available. No Jakob Podol. And it sounds like Gary Trent is available as well. So this is actually healthier than they've been lately. I know Quickly had a massive game a few slates ago. I think at low ownership, he makes some sense here. Don't mind getting there. Barrett, again, kind of expensive, but low owned. These are two plays I could see getting to in tournaments. But is there anything else for Toronto, or what's your take on those two guys as well, I guess?
Yeah, so Toronto, I feel like for the most part, they're pretty healthy here. Great matchup against Washington. But yeah, I think my favorite play here is probably Kelly O. I just feel like with the guards here, it's harder to say any of these guys are priorities with them all healthy. I think Kelly O probably thrives in this environment. So I think my main play here is Kelly O, and then the rest of these guys are probably tournament only plays for me.
Yeah, I don't mind Kellyo. Definitely sees an increased usage. I mean, the model rates him as the best player here on Toronto tonight, so obviously that's telling. And then on FanDuel, I mean, you could play him at power forward, so more reason to like him over there. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I think the top three we have in the model here all makes sense. Probably not going to get to guys like Trent Agbaji, et cetera, just because it's kind of crowded there on the wing now. But another game here, very different environment. We got the Knicks and the Bucks. Last I checked, Giannis is still questionable. Obviously, this is massive news. Pat Beverly's out and no Margin Beauchamp. So let's talk through Milwaukee first. If Giannis is in, he rates as one of the best plays on the slate. Not going to be popular here against the Knicks, but when we see him in competitive games, he does tend to perform pretty well. But we do need to keep in mind the playoffs are right around the corner. Even if he's back, they could limit his minutes. We have him for 35 in the model right now. I don't know. Do you have any sort of take on this? Do you think he's good to go here? I didn't see anything about shoot around or anything like that, but yeah, kind of important, I think.
Yeah, I think he should be good to go. I don't know, like you mentioned, I don't know if they'll push him to like 35, 36 minutes, but he should play north of 30 if he plays. So I think, on this slate, we could potentially, he could be off D, but we're probably going to need a full game out of him to reach his ceiling. So I don't know. I think, yeah, he should be good to go here.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking about this with Eric the other day because he's a Bucks fan, but there's some conspiracy theorists out there who think Giannis is healthy and they're trying to tank into the 3 seed and let the Cavs or the Magic pass them so they don't have to play the Sixers in the first round. Um, Not the craziest thing I ever heard, especially with someone like Doc who tends to overthink things. But yeah, man, I mean, if they're trying to hold on to the spot and they want to keep that home court up until the Eastern Conference Finals, they do need to keep winning games. The Cavs are a game and a half behind them. Magic 2, Knicks are actually 2 games behind them as well. So I know the Knicks are going to be going for it here. They could gain a lot of ground in the standings still. But the Bucks, it seems like might be kind of shipping on purpose at times, which is kind of funny to say. I don't know if I buy into it, but I will say if Giannis is out, obviously we're going to get to Dame. Middleton's going to look pretty good, even though the price on him is up. And then Bobby Portis, every game with Giannis out, regardless of whether he starts or comes off the bench, has been tremendous. But are your takes pretty much the same? Like, would you be prioritizing Dame, Middleton, and or Portis if Giannis is out?
Yeah, I think Dame and Middleton would become way better plays. Particularly Dame, I think would look really good at his price. And then Portis, I don't know, is he in the mid 6Ks?
6'8", 6'7". Yep.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine as well. I don't love the price point, but he also gets a pretty big boost. So I think all those guys would look way better here, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's something we'll keep an eye on. If we do get that news, we'll definitely talk through it. But not the best matchup with the Knicks, but obviously when a player like Giannis comes off the floor, it does create a lot of openings. On the Knicks side of the ball, they did get word that Randall's not going to be back for the playoffs or otherwise, which is unfortunate. Bojan is questionable. Other than that, they're healthy. I don't think we need to spend too much time on here unless there's something you're really passionate about. But I will say, I think Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo, and maybe even Hartenstein are fine as like tournament plays. OG, I think they're going to kind of ease in, which is obviously not Tibbs' style, but OG has famously said that he can't play through pain, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. I don't mind getting to some Brunson or Hart. Other than that, I'm really not excited about anything on the Knicks. How about you?
Yeah, so I love Brunson here in tournaments.
Nice.
I just have always kind of liked him, especially late season. He's kind of turned it on pretty good. So yeah, love Brunson in tournaments. And I think DiVincenzo and Hart both are just tournament plays. Pretty sure Hart had the huge game last game. DiVincenzo had it 2 games ago. So those two are tougher to prioritize in my opinion, but Brunson for sure really like here for the Knicks.
Yeah, I like that you emphasize Brunson. I mean, guards against Milwaukee's kind of been a thing too, and he's coming off a few huge games. So definitely with you on that one. Moving into the next game now, then we'll get into some questions, guys. If you have them, feel free to drop them in chat. We got Philly here against the Spurs. No Joel Embiid tonight for the 76ers, who are kind of playing to hold on to the 1 seed in that play-in tournament. I don't know if there's a scenario where they can play out of the play-in. Actually, yeah, they definitely could. They're only a half game behind the Heat, only a game back behind the Pacers. So this game definitely still matters for Philly. Excuse me. Obviously, the Spurs are out of it. Um, but yeah, lots of injuries to talk through here. So first and foremost, with no Embiid, I'm not really getting to this front court, but that does create usage for the rest of these guys. No Kyle Lowry. Maxi's questionable as of the 4:30 injury report. I missed that one earlier. Tobias Harris questionable as well. Still no DeAnthony Melton. If Maxi's in, I don't think it's crazy to get to him. Personally, I would rather get to someone like Brunson for a little bit more, but I do think he's worth bringing up. The ownership we're seeing on campaign here, a little bit surprising, but the one you kind of dig into it, he's been really good starting even next to Maxi with Lowry out, so I don't mind it. But yeah, man, it's kind of weird. Like these guys are still kind of priced a little bit too high, but now that Embiid's back, like they're slowly leveling out. I don't know. This team still needs to win games. I'm having trouble getting to anything right now other than maybe campaign, but that could obviously change quickly if we do get word that Maxi's not available.
Yeah, so I was also kind of confused why Payne was really popping. Obviously, Maxi was still questionable. So I was a little bit confused. Obviously, Embiid's out, but I prefer Payne when Maxi is out as well. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I think I'm still fine with Payne, but I am a little bit hesitant at 35%. So, yeah, Payne's still fine, I think, but I wouldn't say he's like a priority for me. And then I actually really do like Kelly Oubre here in tournaments as a pivot. 6,900. I know it sounds like a crazy price point, but he's been really good, man. Even in his minutes he's played. So I love Oubre in tournaments once again. And then you mentioned the front court, Bamba and Reed. I would love to get to one of them, man, but it's just like which one do I want to get to? It's like,
Right.
so like I don't know, man. I think both are fine tourney shots, but I think the main priorities here are Payne, Oubre here, and then Maxi if he plays, man. I actually do kind of like in tournaments. No Embiid, they need to win. I like him a lot in tournaments if he does play here.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good kind of breakdown of the situation here. I'm not as bullish on Oubre, but I definitely get it. He spikes ceiling. And if Maxi's out, he's probably the guy that's going to lead this team in usage. So don't mind that. On the other side of this game, and this is a 4 point spread in San Antonio. So Vegas has it as a competitive one. No Barlow or Bassi or Chetty or Sochan or Vassell here. It looks like the Spurs are getting Keldon Johnson back, who's been kind of inconsistent in his minutes this season. We have him for 32. I'm not really bullish on him. I will say though, if Giannis is out, Victor Wembanyama, is very clearly the top raw point play on the board tonight. Looks really good here. Obviously, no one beat definitely helps the upside of this matchup. But yeah, I mean, some of these other guys are okay. I'm seeing ownership going to Champagne. I'm not excited about it. Malachi Branham. If anything, maybe I'm mixing some Trey Jones. Sandro probably going to start again here. He does have power forward eligibility on DK, so you could play him with those other value centers. On FanDuel, he is center only in 5K. Definitely tougher for me to get to him over there with some of the other value options we have. But what are your takes on San Antonio here? Obviously, Wemby, probably something worth getting to if you can afford.
Yeah, so obviously I love Wemby up top. Feel like it's kind of been that like the all year. 11K flat finally does seem a little bit priced right, but against Philly, I kind of thought they're going to shut him down, but they just been letting him roll here. So 11K seems kind of crazy, but he's been very consistent, big ceilings as well. So love Wemby up top if you can afford him, and then the rest of these guys do seem like strictly tournament plays for me. But yeah, Wemby definitely a great play here on the slate.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Would love to get to him. He's been awesome. On FanDuel, a little bit more expensive, but you're getting those extra points for blocks and steals. We still have a couple games to get through. Unicorn Love. I'm not going to pull the comments up, guys, but I will read through them. So 100% Paul, Golden State, 57 on FanDuel. I've been using Washington Center. Yeah, man, we'll talk about Chris Paul in a minute. No Steph Curry tonight, so there's a lot to like for Golden State. Butthole Jenkins asking Josh Hart or Kelly Oubre on DK. For me, it's Hart. And that's definitely Hart with Maxi in. If Maxi's out, I think it's a little bit tougher. But where are you at on that one? Because I know you're more bullish on Oubre than I am.
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same page. If Maxi's in, I'd prefer Hart. Maxi's out. I think I probably would go Oubre, man. I think Oubre has flashed a couple big ceiling games. Hart's still great play, but I would prefer Oubre. I think if Maxi would be out.
Yep. And then we have Josh D with a question here. Do we trust Sexton with the blowout possibility? We'll talk through that situation when we get to that game. It's coming up in just a moment. Next, we have the Kings at my Brooklyn Nets here. Actually, a lot to talk about on the net side. But yeah, as far as the standings go for the Kings, they're currently the 9 seed. I think they want to get out of the play-in if they can. So they still have a lot to play for here. Looking at the injury report, nothing too significant for them. They've had Herter and Monk out for a while now, so I won't say that's not significant, but we've kind of known that, and the pricing algorithms kind of know that. So if you're getting a Fox or Sabonis, I think you're in good shape. Keon Ellis has a random 40-point game once a week. If you're playing 150, I don't mind mixing him in. I was playing Trey Lyles. He's come back down to earth and his price is up, so not really getting there. So really, it's just Fox or Sabonis for me. Maybe Keegan Murray, probably not. But how do you feel about Sacramento in a decent spot here against the Nets?
Yeah, man. I like that call with Keon Ellis. He's been just like the worst DFS roster because he'll
Yeah,
either nuke you, man, or he'll go off at no ownership. So, yeah, starting with Keon, like I don't know. Sure, if you wanted to take a stab at 3%, it's fine, but I can't take that chance. I think there's safer
right.
value plays.
I
And
agree.
then Fox and Sabonis, like I like both these guys in tournaments. It's just like which one is going to go off. I feel like that's kind of what I've told myself all year, is like which one's going to go off. I always lean Sabonis at 10,000, but he's been kind of bad. So I think both Fox and Sabonis both good in tournaments. Don't say I wouldn't say either one's a priority for me, but I think both are good tournament plays. And then Keegan Murray does seem a little bit too priced to play for me now, but I guess he's a fine tournament play.
Yeah, and I agree with you, man. We've actually seen more 50 plus fantasy point games out of Fox lately than we have Sabonis. Obviously, they tend to kind of flip flop. I don't know, just two streaky players, relatively speaking. So just ride the hot hand. And right now, that's Fox if I'm choosing between the two. Then we got to talk about my Nets here, who actually came back from like a 20-point deficit against the Pistons the other night. That was fun to watch. Haven't been many fun to watch games from the Nets this season, but a lot of guys out today. So no Bates job. Claxton is questionable, which is big. Finney Smith is out. No Cam Johnson. Dennis Schroeder is questionable. Obviously, Ben Simmons isn't in net, in my opinion. I don't know why he's on the injury report. Then we have Dennis Smith Jr. is back and probable. The first player I think we got to talk about here is Noah Clowney. I loved when the Nets drafted this kid. Really talented kind of swing 4 or 5. I think he's more of a 4 than a 5. I know he has center eligibility. If Claxton's out, I mean, he's a tremendous play, but even if Claxton is in at 3,700, I'm kind of surprised he's not more popular. We look at what he's been doing lately. Only played 24 minutes against Detroit, had 36 FanDuel points, 33 on DK, 40 DK points in 15 minutes against the Pacers. So if we can get any extra run for him tonight, and we're projecting him to get 26 minutes, one of the better plays on the slate on DK at 5%. I am shocked by that ownership. But yeah, man, how you feeling about my Nets? I usually get a little bit too excited about some of these young guys. I mean, Cam Thomas, another tournament play tonight. Obviously, same price range as someone like Jordan Poole is probably safer. But if you're desperate for a pivot, I think he makes some sense. The Celtics guys too, they're all kind of priced in that range. So I do like Cam Thomas here, probably a little bit more if Schroeder's out. But yeah, Noah Clowney, man. I mean, even if Claxton is in, I think I want to get to him tonight.
Yeah, so just kind of funny because me and Eric were talking about Clowney yesterday. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I wasn't on him yesterday. He went off. Like I feel like if I buy into him now, is he gonna dud now, man? But I think if we get no class in here, if he's gonna keep playing minutes late season, these are the type of players I like targeting. Guys that will get run towards the end of the season. So I like Clowney here a ton at 5% on DraftKings. I think he's a fantastic tournament play, like you mentioned. Love the Cam Thomas call as well. I was all over him yesterday. If there's no Schroeder, I think Cam Thomas looks really, really good here as well, even better. So I love that call with Cam Thomas as a pivot. And then, yeah, Mikal Bridges, I don't know how many times I've said this. Like, he's a solid play. I hate playing him because he's been not bad all season, but he could get there. I just won't be there. I've never been there for the past like 2 months. So if he beats me, he beats me.
Yeah, man, I'm totally with you. And I will say this about the cloudy minutes: it seems like he's just completely taken over, or he's taken a lot of Trendon Watford's minutes. We've seen Watford's run kind of cut in half, only played 12 and 15 the last two games respectively. And Dayron Sharp has actually been DNP'd a few games recently. And I actually like Sharp. I think he's a talented player, but seems like the Nets really want to see what they have with Clowney here because he's kind of similar to Nick Claxton. If they can get away with not paying Claxton and just have Clowney in the wings, which is almost the same exact thing as when they traded away Jared Allen, knowing they had Claxton. It's like they're just kind of pumping out these kind of swing 4 5s. They get really good and then they let them go, and then they have another guy right behind them. So I think they're hopeful that Clowney could be that guy. I know I am. I still love Nick Claxton, love to re-sign him, but I'm super bullish on this kid. I'm going to get to him a lot tonight. I'm kind of hoping Claxton's out so we can really see him showcase. But regardless, 3,700 on DK is too cheap. The 51 on FanDuel, not really excited about it, but you do have the power forward eligibility. Just one more game here. And then, guys, if you have any last minute questions, feel free to get them in, and then we'll do a quick build. We're not going to do the position. I mean, we've touched on pretty much every play on this slate, but yeah, we had a question earlier about Colin Sexton, but yeah, no Chris Dunn tonight, no Jordan Clarkson, no Collins, no Kessler, no Laurie. So there's a lot to like here for Utah. And yes, the first thought when you hear that is, oh man, this game's going to blow out. But then you kind of dig a little bit deeper and you realize, oh wait, there's no Steph Curry here. I think they have a few other guys that are questionable. And when we're looking at the standings, yeah, the Warriors are another team that still needs to win, kind of playing their way out of that play-in spot or trying to get better home court advantage in that play-in tournament. Yeah, there's some blowout risk here, but I will say I'm not really afraid to get to any of these Jazz. With Dunn and Clarkson out, both Sexton and George look really good here. And the reason I say really good and not just kind of good is because they're both sub 10% owned. I honestly am kind of surprised by that. And then we're seeing a very popular Omer Yurtseven. Totally get it. No Collins, no Clarkson, or not Clarkson, no Collins, no Kessler. So that front court's super thin. Your seven's been pretty solid when he is getting run. 21 minutes, 23 DK points last time out. He got 30 minutes against Cleveland, only 22 fantasy points there, but we know he has some upside. And against a team like Golden State, who kind of plays small for the most part lately, I don't mind him. I will say this though. I think I like Vooch, and maybe we can't call him Vooch. Maybe it's Vuk for the Wizards a little bit better. If Claxton's out, I think I like Clowney a little bit better. But I mean, your seven's kind of a no-brainer here as a starting center for the Jazz. But yeah, man, are you as bullish as the field on your seven? And how do you feel about the rest of Utah?
Yeah, so Yurt 7, I think, assuming he starts once again, I think he's a pretty solid play at 4,600. I think he's going to be one of the better value centers, just like Vukovic is. So I think those two probably the clear cut two best value centers. And then for the rest of Utah, I think for me at least, I think Keontae and Sexton both only tournament plays. Um, Either one of them can flash a big ceiling game, but I feel like I have plays I kind of like better on the slate. So probably just Yurt 7 for the most part for Utah, but I get the intrigue for the guards there.
Yeah, yeah. And again, with Dunn and Clarkson out, hopefully they see extra usage. I mean, if you're looking at the game logs, they have not been great lately, but you would think that someone has to show up here. Then on the Golden State side of things, I'm going to pull them up and then I'll talk through the injury report. First and foremost, no Steph Curry. He's just being rested. He's not hurt. We also have Wiggins and Kaminga as questionable, and I think that's significant. I mean, if both of them are out, Clay Thompson, I think, justifies his ownership. I think he's over owned where he's at currently. Draymond, 21% on DK at 6,100. Kind of shocking to me just because it seems like he's ejected every third game. But the Chris Paul chalk, I do think I like. It's kind of tough to get away from. We have him for over 30 minutes here. Whenever he's getting over 30 minutes, he tends to be over 30 fantasy points. The extra usage without Curry in a great matchup. I mean, he's just checking a ton of boxes. But where are you at on Golden State, I guess, with Kaminga and Wiggins in or with them out? Is that changing a lot for you? I think either way, I'm going to be on Chris Paul. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of dicey.
Yeah, so Golden State's kind of the team I'm kind of high on tonight in general. Chris Paul, obviously, I think phenomenal play, the clear cut play.
Mhm.
We kind of have a hidden gem here. I don't know if he's hidden, but Moses Moody at 4K, I feel like Artie is kind of one of the best plays in my opinion at low ownership. If these guys sit with Kaminga and Wiggins, I feel like we see a lot of usage go to guys like Moody, maybe Gary Payton, and then obviously Clay Thompson as well. So yeah, I'm probably going to load up here in Golden State, kind of hoping these guys sit, at least one of them. So I kind of like Golden State. Great matchup here for them as well. Kind of a team I'm kind of bullish on, though, man. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, the issue for me, I'm trying to remember which team you said it about. I think it was the centers for um, I don't know, Philly or whatever. It's like we know something's going to be good in this backcourt. It might be Moody, it might be Peyton, it might be Pods, um, and it's just going to be kind of tough to nail down which one of those three. I will say I do like Clay. I just think he's kind of priced where he should be. Like you want over fantasy points to win a tournament at 5,800. I don't know that we can get that out of him. I think in cash games he's kind of a no-brainer, low-risk contest. I do trust Clay, but yeah, I mean I like Moody at his price, especially if he starts and those other guys are out. But who's to say it's not Pods that has the big game? And then Gary Payton's coming off maybe his best game of the season. Only played 24 minutes, but had 24 DK points. So I'm with you, but like I'm just kind of scared, I guess, for lack of a better word, because I don't know which one of these guys it's going to be. But yeah, obviously, if you are a subscriber, keep an eye on the data. And if you keep an eye on the starting lineup, obviously, if Moody's the one who gets the nod here, he's going to be one who's probably worth getting to. Um, but yeah, let me just pull up any other questions. Let's see. Yeah, B Don, I think I already got you on the Nets, so shouts out for that question. Gonna keep an eye on the lineup though. If we get more news out of there, I'd love to dig even deeper. But I feel like I finally have a pretty good grasp of what Kevin Ollie's trying to do. Olynyk on FanDuel, definitely unicorn love. We talked about him. Giannis is in. Thanks for that, the Prince. Good to hear. Don't have to maybe get to so much Dame or Middleton, but I do like Giannis a lot. Appreciate the kind words, unicorn. Pritchard or Payne from Thugga Thuggin? This is a tough one. I think worth maybe talking about quickly here. Um, I don't know, man. I think Payne's safer. If Maxi's in, though, maybe Pritchard is the higher ceiling play.
Yeah, pretty much agree. Like Payne will project better, I think, if he starts, especially with no Maxi. But if there's no Maxi, but I think Pritchard does a pivot. I don't hate, so it's tough. I'm gonna go with the cop out answer. I'm gonna say Payne, but if you're playing tournaments, I feel like Pritchard might be the better low owned tournament play.
Yeah, I agree. If you're playing cash games or single entry, probably just go Payne as long
Yeah.
as he's starting. And then if you want to get a little different, and we've seen very high ceiling games out of Pritchard this season, so I don't mind that. Then Courtney Parker, I feel like you've asked this question before, but what's value range on FanDuel? I think it depends on the slate, honestly. Like if you're on a 2 game slate and there's no good punts, then value could be like 4 to 5K. I think generally speaking, though, it's anything below 5K. That when I talk about value, that's what I'm talking about. But there are nights like tonight where a play like Chris Paul, who's 5K, would be considered value just because Steph Curry's out. But for the sake of just answering the question, I think generally speaking, we'll say sub 5K. But I know you're on double duty, so we'll do this quick here. Let's get into that first look build. Um, we'll start at center. I mean, I think the field's kind of torn. I think we could go with both. I like Vuk more than Yurt 7, and maybe that's a mistake, but I don't know. Do you want one or the other? Both? How you feeling about that? The front court plays here.
Yeah, it's tough. I like both of them, and look, we can try to go both. I think they're both probably two of the better center plays on the slate. Let's go both, man. I like both those guys. Your 7, I feel like is the casher one, but I feel like Vukovic is also really good. So
Yeah, I've really just like what I've seen out of Vuk, and I mean Yurt 7's good, but I don't know. It's been a while since we've seen the ceiling out of him. I'm fine with both. I think the next obvious play here, we probably go Chris Paul at guard, right?
yeah, that's both.
Now we can start to fill things out. So I'm gonna make a stand here, and I'm gonna say 3,700 for Clowney's a play I want in my lineup. That's
You,
gonna create a ton of salary everywhere else. So what pay ups are you on tonight?
so if we're at both centers, I think do we just go Giannis? I think at low ownership at 11,800 if we can't get up to 1B.
Yeah, yeah. I think the one fear is that they're trying to sell that 2 seed, but I don't know. There's really nothing that we can use to justify not playing him. Yeah, I'll say go Giannis, or if you're tuned in and you want to go Wemby, I think either of those two make plenty of sense. We're left with 6,700 per spot now. Anything else that was chalked that was really jumping out at you, or just any other play you want to try to force in here?
Could we fit in pool potentially?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I like that call.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally expect pool to just crush me today because I'm playing them. So
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys, man. I mean, he has huge games when you don't play him. Then when you do, he disappears. Josh Hart's that guy for me too. I'm not going to play Josh Hart in this build, but he definitely fits that mold. So we got 6,400 left. One for a small forward, one for a guard. Just trying to think if anything stands out.
um,
In terms of price, I mean, we could go with one of the OKC guys. Like Dort is okay. Isaiah Joe's not crazy. Wiggins, they're all priced right next to each other, which is pretty interesting. I'd be fine with any of those three. Or if we look at guard first, maybe that's the move.
yeah.
Something
How do
like
we how do we feel about the pain chalk? Because like we don't have to. Because I feel like we throw him might be too chalky.
if
Um,
Maxi's out, yes.
yeah,
But assuming Maxi's in, I think we avoid it for now, right?
yeah. No, I agree. Let's go. I mean,
We have
I like
Clay.
Clay. I like Clay a little more than you, but I like
I'm
kind of
fine with it.
yeah. Get the 1-2 with Paul and Clay there. No Curry.
Yeah, I'm totally with that. And then we're left with 7K. Oh yeah, we got either Ubre or DiVincenzo. I
There you
think
go.
personally, I'd probably go Dante. I know you like Ubre tonight, though, right?
Both are solid. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'd be fine with either one.
Okay, cool. Claxton is out,
Mhm.
so that's good to see. Hauser is getting the start. Don't mind him being in. Caruso's out. That's going to boost AO. Someone's asking about Juzang for Utah. I wouldn't go there personally. I think there's enough value elsewhere. But any final words, Jayhawk, before we close this out? I know you got to probably get a drink and then get into Discord.
Yeah, man. One quick shout. We did just get news that Anthony Gill's out, man. So huge game changer right there. Anthony Gill rolled out. So yeah, wanted to throw that out there as well. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Let's hopefully we can get a shipper here before the NBA regular season ends.
Yeah, guys, let's finish strong. Thanks again, everyone. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, all the above. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, take care.
See you guys.